Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Screen. I'm your humble DM, Tim, and today we are going to look at the adventure from the Planescape book, Turns of Fortune's Wheel. This is a pretty neat little adventure. It takes you from level 3 all the way to level 10, and a jump from level 10 right up to level 17. So a unique little feature of this thing. You start off the adventure in the city of Sigil and wander through much of the outer planes around the interdimensional city, discovering a great mystery. But let's see what the book actually has to say for itself. This story focuses on the characters correcting a multiversal glitch affecting them and the whole of the Outlands. The adventure begins with the characters awaking in Sigil, untethered from their lives and memories due to this unprecedented error in reality. During the adventure, the characters discover the city of Sigil, meet the Arcanoloth information broker Shimeska. In return for Shimeska's aid in recovering their memories, the characters must track down a missing modron carrying dangerous information. This leads the character on a tour of the Outlands with the additional goal of recording their impressions of the plane using a Mimir, a magical skull-shaped recording device. During their travels, the characters reveal Shimeska's role in their plight, recover their memories, and have the chance to stop a plot undermining the stability of the multiverse. So, as you can see, the premise relatively simple. Anyone who has heard of or played the game Planescape Torment will be pretty familiar with the opening of this adventure as well. So, as a quick summation for those of you that are not wanting spoilers, I will say, if you're looking for an adventure that takes you through a range of different locations, if you have a player in your group that is a crazy note taker and want for them to actually be seen as more useful than maybe they have been in the past, this is definitely the adventure for you. But for now, I will just say I can definitely recommend this one, especially if you want to check out the city of Sigil. And if you have an affinity for modrons in particular, check this one out. But we will go on now with a chapter-by-chapter run-through, and there will be definite spoilers ahead. Please be advised, there are spoilers ahead. You have been warned. The adventure is broken down into three parts, and 15 chapters. So you have chapter 1, Grave Escape. Chapter 2, Philosophers with Clubs. Chapter 2, Philosophers with Clubs. Chapter 3, Fortune Favors the Bold. Chapter 4, Into the Outlands. Chapter 5, Automata. Chapter 6, Cursed. Chapter 7, Excelsior. Chapter 8, Fornell. Chapter 9, Glorium. Chapter 10, Regis. Chapter 11, Sylvania. Chapter 12, The Outlands. Chapter 13, Secrets of the Spire. Chapter 14, Behind the Wheel. And Chapter 15, Echoes of Delusion. Chapter 15 is when the party jumps from level 10 all the way to level 17. Okay. So, Chapter 1 opens up with the adventurers waking up inside of the mortuary. Those of you, again, that have played Planescape Torment will be quite familiar with this location. You have no memory of how you got there, and you are met by the floating skull companion from Planescape Torment known as Mort. Mort will give you a little bit of a basic rundown of how long the characters have been here, and from that point, the adventurers have to try and escape from the mortuary. More than likely, one of the players will get killed, and it is this point which the interplanar glitch that the characters have been infected with will become apparent. What has actually occurred to the players is that they have been untethered in reality. Something has occurred to them. And what will happen is that whenever one of the characters dies in this adventure, rather than actually being replaced by a brand new character, they will actually switch to an alternate timeline or an alternate reality version of the same character. So say that this character was in a different reality, was a satyr. So a version of them as a satyr will pop into existence after that version of them has died, and they continue to play as that character. So what this also allows is for your players to create multiple versions of their character, especially if you have players that, as many of us do, love to create characters, just random characters out there. And this could actually give them a chance to burn through a few of those characters because they can be different variants of the character that they are currently playing. Once the characters make their way through the mortuary and escape, on the streets, you are greeted with the City of Doors, Sigil itself. And this allows the characters to do some shopping, to get acquainted with the world. There's suggestions on different stores that you can visit, different interplanar foods. There is a centaur character who actually has the ability to detect doors, and so she can actually acts as the guide for the characters on this first leg of the adventure. And this just lets the characters sort of get involved in the world. This is not really a plot critical point in the storyline. Until the guards show up looking for the adventurers. It turns out that the party are actually wanted for crimes against the multiverse, and so they are pursued, and there is a member of the guard that is actually working for the information broker Shimeska, and will tell the characters where to go and meet Shimeska, which is the casino known as Fortune's Wheel, and hence the name of the adventure, The Turn of Fortune's Wheel. And so, escaping the guards, they are sent into Undersigil, which is the sewer system underneath the city, which is very much another entire environment unto itself. There's a few random encounters that are listed there, a lot of cranium rats that are encountered. But the main encounter within this chapter, we're already up to chapter 2 at this point, is the Cakers Tea Party. The Cakers are a group of religious fanatics dedicated to the consumption of cakes. Very special cakes. Almost like an Alice in Wonderland type situation going on here. And if you eat any of these cakes, your head flies off and turns into a Vargul, which is basically a head with wings, something out of the Reanimator series. Which again will end up losing one of your characters, and you'll get another one popped in from an alternate reality. So one thing I actually will say about this adventure is that it doesn't really hold back on the character death because of the glitch situation. It isn't that bad. The players can actually die over and over and over again, and depending on your leniency in the situation, they can always bring in another glitched version of themselves. The book itself recommends only 3, but you can do it really as many times as you like, even rotating back to ones that have previously died, because in a different reality they didn't after the other ones have gone through. But anyway, so once you get past the Cakers, you make your way to Fortune's Wheel, and that is the beginning of chapter 3. Chapter 3 is a lot of fun. The casino of Fortune's Wheel is a phenomenal place, and really there are no combat encounters unless your players decide that they want to really mess up the place. But essentially, the whole point of this place is to meet Shimeska, and she isn't there right away. And so the party has quite a few hours to gamble and play the various games. There is the titular Fortune's Wheel, which you can bet on and potentially win items. And the whole chapter is laid out by events that occur hour by hour, basically, which is actually really, really good. So you can say that, for a few hours you do some gambling, you do some bits and pieces, and then an event occurs. One of the events is there's a stage show. There's actually various acts in the stage show that occur. There's actually a bunch of zombies that show up and essentially do the Thriller dance while this bard performs, which is phenomenal. But probably my favorite moment that occurs in this is, rather than being Elvis impersonators as being a massive celebrity in Sigil, there are Vecna impersonators. And so at some point, a bunch of people dressed in rhinestone outfits with face paint and everything to make themselves look like Vecna descend on the casino and go, hey, I'm Vecna, I'm going to kill you all. So there's a great chance for some role play in that situation as well. And eventually, Shimeska shows up. And I love the little bit of text that shows up here with this. The lights dim and the crowd murmurs with anticipation. Like a spotlight, a portal appears in the hall's vaulted ceiling and casts a golden glow on the casino floor. A grand spiral staircase twists down from the portal, accompanied by orchestral fanfare. A copper-furred, fox-headed being in an exquisite gown gracefully descends the stairs. Her arrival is met with thunderous applause. And this is Shimeska, the broker that the party is here to meet, and the owner of Fortune's Wheel. So it's at this point that the party meet up with Shimeska. She will invite them back to one of the high roller rooms at the back of the casino, and will ask about their plight, because there's been information or rumors floating around about these people, but she doesn't know much about them, or so she says. And she asks what the adventurers have been doing, what's been going on, and if they inform her about the situation with them, she says, well, I'll attempt to dig up some information if you will do something for me. And what she wants from the party is to go into the outlands of Sigil and find her modron accountant, known as Rome. And so that is where the adventure begins. So Shimeska will open up a portal and send them into the Outland. We'll inform them that in order to track down Rome, they're going to need a Mimir. Now, Rome was in possession of a Mimir, and her information has allowed her to track where the Mimir was last located. And so if they can find the Mimir, then they can use that to track the rogue modron Rome. And so the Mimir was last spotted in a walking castle, a castle that is run by the Githzerai. When you arrive at the walking castle, after she opens up a portal and sends you into the Outlands, you find that the place has been overrun by certain fiends. You can defeat the fiends, hopefully, and free the previous owner of the castle. And this becomes the party's mode of transportation around the Outlands. The Mimir is located inside of this place. And this is where the whole note-taking and I guess probably the best way to describe it is it's very much a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy type situation. What you find out is that the Mimir is broken. And so in order to track down Rome, you need to take the Mimir to various gates around the Outlands. These are certain locations on the wheel known as gate towns. All right, so for a quick rundown of the cosmology of the multiverse, or the planes in the Planescape universe. Essentially, the whole thing exists on a wheel. They call it the Great Wheel. At the center is the central spoke, which is where the city of Sigil exists, and all around it are the different outer planes. And the different outer planes exist based on the alignment. So like lawful, neutral, lawful good, etc. So at the very top, you have Elysium, which is the lawful good location. Then you go around to this side here and you end up with limbo, which is the planes of chaos. So that's chaotic neutral. On the other side of that, you have Mechanus, which is lawful neutral. And way down the bottom, you have Hades, which is lawful evil. And then you go slightly around to this side here and this side here, and you have the different evils moving around to neutrality, and then lawful, and then back the way all the way around. And so in order to enter into these planes, there are corresponding towns that exist in the Outlands, which will allow you access to those areas. The other interesting thing is, too, that depending on how well the state of that current area is actually following or exacting that level of alignment, it can actually shift into different parts of the wheel. So things are not always stable. So, for example, in an area that is chaotic neutral, if there is something that is actually bringing order to an area of chaos, it begins to slide into the area of lawful, and it begins to make its the cosmology shifts. So it's kind of weird, but basically what you need to do is you need to take the Mimir to each of these different gate towns, or at least a certain amount of these gate towns. It gives you a list of the gate towns you have to go to. And that is the bulk of the adventure. So basically what it does is it gives you an order, and you can do these in any order that you want to do. But the first location is Automata. So that is the area where the modrons are. So this is very much a lawful neutral place. Essentially, to get to the gate, you actually have to wait in line for several days. You have to actually follow the the rules. It's like going to the DMV. But if the players try to force their way through, they can actually meet someone and they can be given a task. There's someone who's causing a bit of chaos. And so causing disorder, which is not good. If you can bring this person back into lawful line by either killing them or arresting them, they will allow you access to the gate. The next location is Cursed, which is actually essentially a giant prison made out of junk. When you show up there, you're allowed in without issue. Getting out is the problem. This whole place is filled with people that have been trapped in this place, unable to leave. The next location is Excelsior, which is the gate town to Mount Celestia. And there's actually a mysterious criminal in this place that has been capturing people's souls. And so once you're able to bring that person to heal, you're allowed access to that location. The next location is Fornail, which is actually in the Beastlands. So this place is actually filled with a whole bunch of talking people. It's kind of meant to be like, imagine, Jurassic Park. Actually, probably a better description would be The Land Before Time. So you've got animals, dinosaurs, all sorts of things, but all these animals can talk and have their own alliances. And you've got, the carnivores and the herbivores. So they're, a bit of a tenuous situation going on there. And you have to deal with some poachers, people that are coming in and killing these people, and they're blaming other members of their groups. You've got to try and find out what is going on with them. The next location is Glorium, which is essentially Valhalla, or the gate to Ysgard, as it says here. Basically, this is a location where people, they feast and they fight and they fight and they feast. And the gate in this particular location is actually a giant whirlpool. But this giant whirlpool is being assailed at the moment by giant eels that are swimming about this location. So anyone attempting to get through the gate is getting attacked. And so you have to try and sort out what is actually going on with these eels. There's actually a boat in this location, which is a living boat that is also a raven. So a pretty unique little location there, but definitely a fun one. The next location, Regis, Eternity's Rampart. This is the gate town to the plane of Acheron, the chaotic evil realm. Um, and this is one giant battlefield. The idea behind this gate is that the gate is constantly being attacked. Monsters are constantly coming through this gate, and people have got to kill them. And so you need to assist the warriors in keeping the gate secure long enough for you to be able to get close enough to get the Mimir to get its reading. The next location, Sylvania. And this is, of course, the gate town to the Feywild, where this one is a bit more interesting because it's a giant party going on. And in order to get things smoothed out, you've got to try and basically keep everyone entertained. There's a whole bunch of parties going on, and certain monsters, like there's a titan that wants to go to a party, but there's all fairies in the party, and the fairies don't want the titan to step on them, and so this person's all sad. So you've got to try and basically create or find all these different groups and try and resolve the social issues within this group so that everyone can party and everyone can have a good time. And then once that happens, once again, they will show you how to find the gate and you can get the Mimir close to it. After that, there's just a whole bunch of random encounters as well. One of the locations you can actually meet up. One of the encounters you can have is you can actually meet up with the time dragons. There's a weightlifting competition with a bunch of frog people. There's a whole bunch of random things which don't necessarily have to include in the campaign, but this is definitely a way to make the adventure a bit more interesting. So they don't just have to go to point A to point B to point C and get everything done. It gives them something to do in between. So you might want to, if you want to stretch out the adventure, you can visit these other areas here. Otherwise, you can just head on and go straight through to the main bit. Once you have all the information you require on the Mimir points out that Rome was attempting to return to Sigil, and he decided to do that by actually climbing within the spire itself. Not the wisest idea, because the spire that supports Sigil is infinitely tall. So how he was expecting to reach the top, I'm not exactly sure, but who knows what goes through the mind of a modron. And so the next chapter is everyone heading to the spire in order to track down Rome. Now, what I will say as well is with the Mimir, because you have to go to all of the different locations and get a reading on the locations from the various gates, this is where the note taker becomes one of the most valued people in this adventure, because you have to take notes on how the alignment or how the area that you are in is working. Is it actually is the situation within this realm accurate to its place in the cosmology? So that's what I was saying with the Hitchhiker's Guide. You have to make notes on the different areas that you visit, and this becomes very important later on in the adventure. Making your way to the spire, there are a whole bunch of crystals and other very strange creatures. Making your way past them, either via negotiation or fighting, wouldn't recommend the fighting. You begin to make your climb, where you meet this god, which I thought was a phenomenal thing. As you're climbing up inside the spire, you hear creatures whispering the name of a god, or rather the name of a demigod. As you make your way across an incredibly narrow bridge to the other side of the spire's interior to make your way up, the party comes across a demigod known as Kirgaz Vitz, the Unerring Avalanche. And people have been warned to stay away from this area because the Unerring Avalanche never misses and he will destroy you. And when you encounter this creature, you discover it is a piercer. It's just a single piercer that clunk and lands, and if it hits you, you take a little bit of damage, and then it mocks you because it has struck you down and defeated you by hitting you. If it misses, it just teleports away and will attempt to strike the next people that cross the bridge. But I really like this encounter. It's so stupid. It's beautiful. And eventually, you make your way up the spire, and you find the area completely covered in webs, black webs, and you find Rome cocooned in one of these webs, and he suggests that you should get the hell out of there because the creature that webbed him will be coming. And that's when you fight this really disturbing looking spider creature known as the Dark Weaver. And once that encounter's done, you are able to find yourselves a portal and get yourselves back to Sigil. One thing that Rome informs the group is that Shemeska has actually been lying to the group. Shock horror, the person that gave the people the adventure was actually the villain all along. Yeah, so what the party finds out from Rome is that the fancy fox friend was trying to disassemble them. The fox friend is holding modrons hostage in a secret prison. The modrons are doing things that are bad for the planes. He escaped this secret prison, but was captured and taken to the fancy place, and used a platinum casino chip he found to escape through a portal behind the big wheel. He traveled through Sigil and the Outlands to hide, but also to follow the path of the Great Modron March. He was part of the Great Modron March, but got separated, hoping to complete the march he started long ago and learn how the trapped Modrons are disrupting the planes. He can tell the characters are affected by the disruption the fox friend Modrons are causing, and he doesn't know where to go, but he'd like to leave the Spire. He won't go to Sigil, where he's afraid the fox will get him. They also find out that Rome was never an accountant of Shemeska. He won't go back, but he can show the characters where to find a portal to get back to Sigil, and that is where that chapter ends. Essentially, the final chapter is the big reveal, and you have to visit the back rooms and confront Shemeska. Shemeska, as it turns out, is not a good person and has caused a massive disruption in the multiverse by trapping a large group of Modrons from the Great Modron March into an infinite spiral on the inside of a giant beholder's head. A skull of a giant beholder, I should say, known as the Tyrant's Spiral. And the Modrons don't realize that they are there, so they are just constantly marching around in circles, in circles, in circles. And we finally find out in this section what the Great Modron March is all about. Essentially, the Modrons start from Mechanus and walk all the way around the different sections of the wheel and come back to Mechanus, where the information is uploaded and they are able to adjust the cogs to make sure that everything is still in alignment. Because the Great Modron March for this generation has been stuck, the cogs haven't been able to be adjusted, and so I think the phrase is every few hundred years the teeth in the great cog sometimes skip. Well, that's been happening a lot more frequently because they haven't been able to get any of the relevant information on the planes. Shemeska has also met the party before and is in fact the reason why they are glitching. Because of what happened, she attempted to trap the party in these particular type of stasis crystals, but because of the location that they were in and because the world is glitching, she basically shattered them into different aspects of themselves and were only able to contain one particular version of them within this crystal, and then the versions of the party that were ended up in the morgue were the ones that showed up, and she figured, well, I've got what I need from them, they're trapped there, let's just get the morgue to take care of them, not realizing that they woke up. And so after defeating Shemeska, you send the party into the Tyrant Spiral, where you come across the Modron March wandering around in a giant spiral through these different portals. As you make your way through the different locations, you eventually come across the leader of the Modron March, who has been injured, and so is unable to correct the march because the Modrons don't have new orders. They're stuck in the spiral. This particular Modron could potentially get them out, but because he is damaged and they don't know how to fix him, they are unable to assist. So essentially what has occurred is he's lost all of his programming on the different locations all around the wheel. And that is where the Mimir comes into play. And this is where the note taker becomes the hero of the adventure. Because depending on how well they have taken their notes, and depending on how accurately the world within the wheel has been performing, and the information that they have is basically the information that this creature needs. You basically do the Great Modron March in this instance in order to wake up their leader. And so you install the Mimir into their leader, X01 he is called, and he wakes up. Now, depending on how well they have taken their notes, there are three possible outcomes. There is accurate. If the character's Mimir largely details the Outlands in an unbiased way, X01 realizes reality is behaving within expected parameters. It reactivates as a calm, logical Modron that is eager to lead its followers directly to Mechanus, where it can make an unremarkable report. So that's an accurate depiction. Inconsistent. If the characters provide an inconsistent detail about the Outlands, several accurate and several skewed, X01 reactivates and exhibits dramatic mood swings. It seeks to lead the Modron to its home plane, but is uncertain where that is. Skewed. If the characters' reports on the Outlands reflect their bias for a particular philosophy or alignment, the Modrons act in opposition. The skewed data results table notes X01's personality after being influenced by data skewed along the lines of particular alignments. If the information the characters provided to the Mimir strongly reflects the philosophies of a faction of Sigil, choose the result that best corresponds with the faction's agenda. So, if it is mostly chaotic, X01's personality is rigid even for a Modron, and insistent that the characters aid it in returning to Mechanus. Evil, the personality is serene and overly concerned with the character's safety. Good, becomes manipulative and eager to abandon the characters and the other Modrons after it escapes. And lawful, it's distractible and prone to recklessness. So if you activate him and you're not keeping things in a line, their boss goes a little bit nuts. So once their leader is activated, you then have to work out how to get out of there. Now, all the different areas within the Tyrant Spiral do actually have their own little gates. So depending on whether or not you have the ability to do so, you can work out how to get the party out of there. So if they get the accurate one, then he will actually do it himself. Otherwise, the party themselves have to work it out. But also, once the modrons return to Mechanus, depending on how well the notes have been taken and programmed into the modron leader, affects the entire multiverse. Okay? So, if you have an accurate reading, on returning to their home plane, the modrons report their data, which results in incremental realignments of Mechanus's workings. No precipitable changes to the status quo in the multiverse occur. No other creatures suffer the multiversal glitch that the characters experience. Inconsistent. Unless the characters intervene, it takes months for X01 and much of the diminished group of modrons to return to Mechanus. When they do, chaos ensues. Modrons behave strangely across the planes, and chaotic creatures like Slard operate unopposed. Numerous creatures experience multiversal glitch that affected the characters. Ultimately, the Modron leader Primus initiates a new Great Modron march to correct the chaos sweeping the planes. Skewed. On the Modron's return to Mechanus, a skewed data in the character's Mimir causes all modrons across the planes to react differently towards people's philosophies and types of beings. The multiversal effects of skewed data summarize on this table summarize the new behavior for the vast majority of the modrons. Chaotic. They are more vigorously opposed to chaotic beings. Modrons become more hostile to chaotic beings and expressions of lawlessness. Evil. They oppose all evil beings. Celestials ally with modrons to crusade against evil across the planes. Good. Modrons will oppose good beings. Fiends manipulate the modrons to besiege bastions of good across the planes. And lawful. Modrons withdraw to Mechanus. Chaotic beings act unopposed across the planes. So, unless you're a good note taker, it can kind of ruin the entire multiverse in this adventure. And that is basically how the adventure ends. And I'll read you the way that the adventure comes to an end, basically. It is unclear when or how it happened, but the street around you is empty and still. Before you can ponder the cosmically infinitesimal chances of a Sickle Street emptying, a somber, grey-skinned figure floats into your path. The debuts hover silently as a string of illusory images fade into view around you. Prominent among these symbols is the razored image of the Lady of Pain. The lady saw what you did. She has a message. Stay out of trouble. A rickety plank door opens easily, revealing a wall of crusty bricks and gnarled razor vines. Embedded at the wall's center is a perfectly square metallic brick with a faintly glowing tower-like rune on the surface. So the Lady of Pain gifts the party a cubic gate, allowing them to return to the prime material plane, or essentially whatever plane that they want to do. And that's where the adventure ends, with the party potentially wrecking the multiverse or saving it. So, yeah. That is my rambling review on the Turn of Fortune's Wheel. Honestly, I really think this is one of the better ones. Some pretty high stakes, some good locations, some good monsters, new lore concerning the Great Modron March, which I am always a massive fan of. Anything to do with the Modrons, I absolutely love. And also a lot of gambling, and again, if you're a note taker, you can get to be the hero of the multiverse in this particular campaign. So, if you haven't already got a copy of it, definitely check it out. For now, I have been your humble DM, Tim, and until next time, remember to keep on blending. Bye!